Hello everybody, this is Refresh and I'm here to bring you a battle between the three Magic the Gathering Clash Packs and the Defeat a God Challenge deck from Journey into Nyx. We'll be playing two games, first on normal difficulty with 3 Rollicking Throngs and then on hard mode. And for these games we'll be using 3 hero cards. The first one is the Harvester, which says tap, draw a card, then discard a card. The Explorer says you may play an additional land on each of your turns, and the Vanquisher says your starting hand size is increased by 1, your maximum hand size is increased by 1. The 3 Clash Packs are represented by their combined Ultimate form decks with Fate and Fury here, Power and Profit here, and Armed and Dangerous there. We'll go ahead and get started by drawing our opening hands. Fate and Fury has a Karametra's Acolyte, Forest, Jace's Ingenuity, Forest, Prognostic Sphinx, Forest, Nesting Game Warden, and Divination. Unfortunately, with 3 blue cards and all the cards costing a lot of mana, I think we're going to have to mulligan this and hope to get a little bit more of a faster hand. Fortunately, this is multiplayer, and so we get at least 1 free mulligan. Now we have an Island, Curse of the Swine, Forest, Island, Forest, Forest, Karametra's Acolyte, and Elvish Mystic. This is still not a very good hand because it doesn't really have any payoffs and just the ramp. And so I am going to mulligan this down to 7. Now I have an Elvish Mystic, Horizon Chimera, Island, Divination, Island, Jace's Ingenuity, Forest, and Courser of Kruphix. I think this is a much more acceptable hand. So we will keep it, and we will take the Jace's Ingenuity and stick this one on the bottom. Power and Profit has a Reaper of the Wilds, Sultai Charm, Island, Whip of Erebos, Commune of the Gods, Opulent Palace, Evolving Wilds, and Herald of Torment. It's not an ideal hand, but I think we can make this one work. We'll keep it. Armed and Dangerous draws a Feat of Resistance, Seeker of the Way, Blossoming Sands, Plains, Forest, Plains, Blossoming Sands, and Lightwalker. It's a little bit low on its ability to have an impact, but I think because we have things that we can cast early, we're going to keep this hand. Because this is multiplayer, we'll draw on our first turn. Fate and Fury draw a Font of Fertility. Power and Profit draws a Nemesis of Mortals. Armed and Dangerous draws an Evolving Wilds. Fate and Fury will play a Forest and an Island. We'll tap the Forest and cast an Elvish Mystic. This is a 1/1 Elf Druid. You can tap to add green to your mana pool. Power and Profit will play an Opulent Palace. This is a land that enters the battlefield tapped. You can tap it for black, green, or blue. We'll also play an Evolving Wilds. This is a land. You can tap it, sacrifice it, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. We're going to tap it, sacrifice it, and then search our library for a forest, which we'll put on the battlefield. We'll shuffle. Armed and Dangerous will play a Plains and a Forest. We'll tap these both to cast Seeker of the Way. This is a 2/2 human warrior with prowess, and whenever you cast a non-creature spell, it gains lifelink until end of turn. Then we'll pass to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. Now there's a chance that Xenagos might be able to defeat the decks on the first turn before the decks have really had any chance to do anything, and if that happens, we will mulligan whatever card that would have defeated them. Xenagos casts Impulsive Charge. At the beginning of combat this turn, all Revelers gain haste until end of turn and attack this combat if able. And then Wild Maenads. This is a 3/1 human Reveler with First Strike, and when it leaves the battlefield, each player gains 3 life. So everything is going to be attacking. We will block one of the Rollicking Throngs with the Seeker of the Way, and then we'll be taking 5 damage, going down to 15. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Fate draws a Forest, and we will discard the Font of Fertility. Power draws a Forest, and we'll discard the Herald of Torment. Armed draws an Abzan Ascendancy, and we will discard the Plains. We'll untap. Fate draws a Forest. Power draws a Murderous Cut. Armed draws a Swamp. Fate and Fury will tap out, and we'll cast the Courser of Kruphix. This is a 2/4 Enchantment Centaur. Play with the top card of your library revealed. You may play with the top card of your library if it's a land card, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. It's a Karametra's Acolyte on top. We'll go ahead and play 2 lands, which will be 2 forests, This will gain us 2 life to go back up to 17. Power will play the forest and the island. We'll tap everything and cast Reaper of the Wilds. This is a 4/5 Gorgon. Whenever another creature dies, scry 1. You can pay black to give it Death Touch until end of turn, and 1 in green to give it Hexproof until end of turn. Armed and Dangerous will play 2 Blossoming Sands. This is a land, it enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. You can tap it for green and white. We'll gain 2 life to go back up to 19. Then we'll tap the Plains and the Forest to cast a Lightwalker. This is a 2/1 Human Warrior, and it has flying as long as it has the +1/+1 counter. There's no point in going to combat now because we can't defeat anything. We'll pass to Xenagos. Xenagos will untap. Xenagos casts a Rollicking Throng. This is a 1/3 Human Reveler. When it enters the battlefield, reveal the top card of the Xenagos library, and Xenagos casts that card. Go ahead and cast another card, which is an Ecstatic Piper. This is a 2/2 Satyr Reveler. When it enters the battlefield, Xenagos Ascended attacks this turn if able, and when it leaves the battlefield, each player gains 2 life. Finally, we have an Impulsive Destruction. Each player may sacrifice an artifact or enchantment. It deals 3 damage to each player who didn't sacrifice a permanent this way. We cannot sacrifice anything, so we're going to be taking 9 damage, plus Xenagos will be attacking, and we're not going to block Xenagos in this particular case. So we'll be taking 15 damage, taking us all the way down to 4. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Fate draws the Karametra's Acolyte, and we will discard the Divination. Power draws a Hero's Downfall, and we will discard Commune with the Gods. Armed draws the Scoured Barrens, and we will discard the Evolving Wilds. We'll untap. Fate and Fury draws a Horizon Chimera. Power and Prophet draws a Forest. Armed and Dangerous draws a Forest. Fate and Fury will play the Forest from the deck, gaining us a life to go back up to 5. Reveal Karametra's Acolyte. Fate and Fury will play the Island, getting us another life to go back up to 6. Fate and Fury will tap 4 mana to play the Karametra's Acolyte. This is a 1/4 Human Druid. You can tap it to add an amount of green to your mana pool equal to your devotion to green. Power and Prophet will play the Forest. We'll tap everything and cast the Nemesis of Mortals. This is a 5/5 snake. It costs 1 less for each creature in your graveyard. And for 7 green, Monstrosity 5, this ability costs 1 less to activate for each creature card in your graveyard. We have 1 creature in our graveyard, making this a 5 mana spell. Armed and Dangerous will play a Swamp, and they'll also play a Scoured Barrens. This is land, enters the battlefield tap. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life, taking us up to 7. Then we will spend 3 mana to cast the Abzan Ascendancy. When it enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying onto the battlefield. Because we cast a non-creature spell, Seeker of the Way becomes a 3/3 with lifelink, and then it should also become a 4/4 because of the counter. We'll go to combat. The Lightwalker will swing into one of the Rollicking Throngs. The Seeker of the Way will swing into the Wild Maenad. The Reaper of the Wilds will swing into one of the Rollicking Throng. The Courser of Krufix will run into the Ecstatic Piper. This will defeat 2 Rollicking Throngs, the Ecstatic Piper and the Wild Maenad. We'll gain 5 life per player, so 15 life. Go up to 22, plus an additional 4 life from the lifelink, taking us up to 26. And then we'll pass the turn to Xenagos. Xenagos untaps. We'll cast the top 2 cards. The first one is an Ecstatic Piper. The second one is an Impulsive Charge. Everybody is going to be attacking now. The Nemesis of Mortals will block the Ecstatic Piper, and one of the Rollicking Throngs will be blocked by a Karametra's Acolyte. This will defeat the Ecstatic Piper, and that will give us 6 life, which should blunt Xenagos' assault. We'll take 1 damage from the remaining unblocked Rollicking Throng to go down to 25. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Fate and Fury draws a Karametra's Acolyte, and we'll discard the Karametra's Acolyte. Power and Prophet draws a Eidolon of Blossoms, and we will discard the Murderous Cut. Armed and Dangerous draws a Top and Free Blade, and we'll discard the Forest. Now we untap. Fate and Fury draws the Cura's Follower. Power and Prophet draws a Merciless Executioner. Armed and Dangerous draws Pacifism. The win is already in hand. We're going to attack with the Reaper of the Wilds and the Nemesis of Mortals into the 2 Rollicking Throngs, defeating them. And then Prophet will tap 3 mana and cast Sultai Charm. It's an instant. It says choose one, destroy target non-land monocolored creature, destroy target artifact or enchantment, or draw 2 cards, then discard a card. We'll choose to destroy target enchantment, that enchantment being Xenagos. Xenagos is a 6/5 legendary enchantment creature god, and it can't leave the battlefield as long as the Reveler is on the battlefield. And when it leaves the battlefield, each player wins the game. And so the Clash Packs win the game pretty definitively here. We'll be right back for some sideboarding. For sideboarding, Fate and Fury will remove the Aether Spouts, Hypnotic Siren, and Curse of the Swine, replacing them with 2 Reclamation Sages and Annihila's Disciple. Power and Prophet will remove 2 Brain Maggots, replacing it with Naturalize and Reviving Melody. Armed and Dangerous will remove a Feat of Resistance and 2 Ultimate Prices, replacing it with Elite Scale Guard, Abzan Battle Priest, and Scale Blessing. We are back for hard mode. There are now 4 Rollicking Throngs assembled here. We'll go ahead and get started by drawing our opening hands. Fate and Fury draw an Island, Jace's Ingenuity, Reclamation Sage, Nessian Game Warden, Curious Follower, Forest, Forest, and Forest. I think that this is an acceptable first hand. Power and Prophet draws a Murderous Cut, Commune with the Gods, Sultai Ascendancy, Font of Fertility, Satyr Wayfinder, Eidolon of Blossom, Swamp, and Nemesis of Mortals. Unfortunately, a one-lighter is a no keeper. We're going to mulligan and use our free multiplayer mulligan. Now we have a Forest, Opulent Palace, Necropolis Fiend, Island, Forest, Font of Fertility, Jungle Hollow, and Sultai Charm. This hand kind of does not much of anything, but I'm going to keep it on the hopes that we can loot into what we need. Armed and Dangerous draws a Lightwalker, Forest, Swamp, Cash Defenses, Incremental Growth, Plains, Citadel Siege, and Scoured Barrens. It's not an ideal hand, but I think we can make use of it, so we'll keep it. Fate and Fury draws a Nessian Courser. Power and Prophet draws a Murderous Cut. Armed and Dangerous draws a Forest. Fate and Fury will play an Island and a Forest. We'll tap them both to cast Kiora's Follower. This is a 2/2 Merfolk. You can tap it to untap another target permanent. Power plays an Opulent Palace, and then we'll play a Forest. We'll tap the Forest and cast Font of Fertility. This is an enchantment. For 1 and a green, you can sacrifice it to search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped, and then shuffle your library. Armed plays a Plains and a Forest. We'll tap them both to cast the Light Walker. We'll pass the turn to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is a Rip to Pieces. At the beginning of combat this turn, each Reveler deals 1 damage to each player and each creature those players control. And then we'll also Xenagos' Strike. It deals 4 damage to each player. Now this will defeat us after the Rip to Pieces deals 12 damage, and so we are going to mulligan the Xenagos' Strike. Now we have an Ecstatic Piper. This will also it enters the battlefield. Rip to Pieces will trigger. This will deal 4 damage to each creature and to each player, dealing us 12 damage and defeating both the Kiora's Follower and the Lightwalker. This will take us down to 8. The Lightwalker also dies. Xenagos attacks. We'll take an additional 6 damage to take us down to 2. At the end of the turn, we'll use the Harvester. Fate draws a Forest and we'll discard the Jace's Ingenuity. Power draws an Opulent Palace and we will discard the Forest. Armed draws a Windswept Heath and we will discard the Swamp. We'll untap. Fate draws an Island. Power draws an Island. Armed draws a Pacifism. Fate will play 2 Forests. We'll tap the Forests and cast a Nessian Courser. This is a 3/3 Centaur Warrior. Power will play 2 Islands, and then we'll tap everything. We'll cast Murder, targeting the Ecstatic Piper. This is instant. It has Delve, and it says destroy target creature. We'll have to exile the Forest in order to cast it. This kills the Ecstatic Piper and gets us 6 life, bringing us back up to 8. Armed will play the Scoured Barrens. We'll gain 1 life to go back up to 9. We'll also play a Forest. We'll tap a Forest and a Plains to cast Pacifism, targeting Xenagos. This is an enchantment aura, and enchants a creature. Enchanted creature can't attack or block. We pass to Xenagos. Xenagos will cast the top 2 cards. The first one is Impulsive Destruction. We will have to sacrifice the font to Fertility to not die. The font is down, it will take 6 damage to go down to 3. And then we have Impulsive Charge. We are going to be attacked by all of these Revelers, one of which will run into the Nessian Courser and perish, but the other 3 will actually hit us and finish us off, defeating the Clash Packs against Xenagos. Rip to Pieces is always a brutal card whenever it comes out, and so that happened here. Let me know what you thought about the games in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. If you'd like to see more of my videos, you can hit subscribe. This was Refresh. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.